Okay, so I'm now going to change to the floor layer, and while I'm in the floor layer, I'll go and grab the rectangle tool over to the side here. Pick up your rectangle tool and come to this corner of the building here until the tooltip says intersection. Click, and then drag your cursor out to the other corner over here until that says intersection, and click there. And we've just created a SketchUp face, which to all intents and purposes could be the floor face of the building. But there's a little bit else that's happening around the floor face here, so while I'm still in the rectangle tool, I'm going to come to this intersection and out till I'm on line there. Well, I really should have created another construction line to make it a little bit easier, so I might escape out of that command to make that a bit easier. And let's go and pick up our tape measure tool and drag from this on edge and drag out, and you give me a distance of something like 480. Once again, 480 would be a multiple of brick nodules, so there'd be no brick cutting necessary there. So I can then go and grab my rectangle tool, click on that intersection, click across to that intersection, and I've added that piece of the floor. Now I'll get you then to go back to the select tool and click on this line here which joins those two rectangles you drew, and when that pops up and becomes blue, you can then press the delete key on your keyboard to get rid of that line. And what that does is that creates one slab floor area. Okay, so I might just tidy up this construction line that I created here. It's sort of like a secondary set out line, and I only used that for the creation there of that. So I'll press delete there, and maybe even, no, I think I'll leave these other two in for now. Okay, now I'm going to give this floor slab some thickness. I actually want it to sit something like around about 300 millimeters above the ground. So I'll give that floor a thickness of 300 millimeters, so from the external views of the building it would appear to be sitting up 300 millimeters above the ground. So I'll click on the push-pull tool here, and we'll push-pull that slab downwards. Now you won't be able to see it as you drag downwards because the JPEG image is hiding it. So you need to come further than you need to go, and if you see on the screen there, I've come right out below the JPEG image and let go somewhere there. Now that's okay, it's much deeper than you wanted it to be. That's okay because you now get a second chance after you've let go to type the number that you really wanted. So I'm going to type 300 and press enter. And if I orbit around now underneath, I'll be able to see that the floor is now coming out below that image level. Okay, now while I'm there as well, I'll do the same thing. While I'm in the push-pull tool, I'm going to push-pull the floor surface up to create the thickness of the walls. However, before I do, I'll press and release the control button, the control key on your keyboard, and you might notice a little plus sign next to the push-pull tool now. And what that means is it's going to leave the original surface in place and add a new surface at the top of your push-pull. So I'll grab that push-pull now and push-pull it up. I always like to do this. As you can see, I'm going much further than I need to. Then I'll let go and type the distance I really wanted it to go, which is 2450. A little bit above a nominal 2.4 metre high ceiling height to allow for things like ceiling battens, etc. So I push-pulled that up by 2450. Okay, now our layers are getting a little bit out of kilter now because I push-pulled that floor up to create the walls, so all of these entities here are still on the floor layer. But that's okay. What I can do is I can orbit around until I'm looking at a fairly flat horizon view, just approximately like that. So you can see the red-green axis sort of goes on top of each other, so that the horizon line, if you like, is fairly flat on the screen, just approximately. And when you get it to be something like that, just go and pick up your select tool and click somewhere out, most importantly to the right hand side to above, and to the right hand side of the screen. So somewhere where I'm about to do now. Now I'll click and drag, holding down the mouse. I haven't let it go yet. I'll click and drag out to somewhere like this. And I'll let go about there, and what that did is any entities that were crossed by that window that I just drew have been picked up. And as I said before, all of those entities are on the floor layer, but I'd like to drop down the layer drop down box and change those to be the wall layer. Okay, so all of those entities are now on the layer called wall. Okay, so we might just keep moving a little bit and start to construct a roof line on this building. To do that, next tool I'll show you will be this protractor tool over here. So with your protractor tool, just click on the protractor tool and drag it back into the screen. Now zoom up a little bit on this particular face, orbit around and zoom up onto this particular face, and while you're hovering in the middle of that face, press and hold your shift key. That will constrain your protractor to that orientation. While you're constrained to that orientation, click on this end point here. Now, while you're on that endpoint, you need to give the protractor a starting direction. I'm going to click along this edge here as my starting direction. Then I'm going to rotate upwards and type a value of 15 degrees and press enter. Just 15 and press enter. So I've now got a construction line that's 15 degrees in pitch from that wall. Okay. I might now give myself another construction line, so I'm back to my tape measure tool now, and this construction line I'm going to give from this corner of the pop out of the building, and I'm just going to pull that out in any direction and type 0 and press enter. So I've now got a construction line 0 away from that edge. In other words, the line's going right through that edge. Probably time now for us to change our layer, drop down layer, to the roof layer. So I've selected the roof layer, and I'm just going to initially draw a line from on top of that end point there and through that construction line to that intersection up the top just there. Okay, now while I've got that line there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to escape out of the line command, go and pick up my select tool, select that line. Okay, so I've got that line selected. Then I'm going to go and find my move tool. But before I use my move tool, I'm going to press and release the control key. That changes the move tool to be a copy tool. You might notice the little plus sign next to the tool again. So I'm clicking on the end point, and I'm going to the other end point to create the other line, to make a copy of that other line from there. Now, while I'm still in the roof layer, I'm going to go up and pick my line tool, my little pencil, and I'll click on the end of that end point and then drag across to that other end point of that roof plane. So we've now created a little bit of a roof plane at that point. Probably a good idea to tidy up some of these construction lines as you go, so you can use your eraser if you like, and then just erase that line and that line, and that. I'm not going to erase the bottom construction lines for now because they might be most important to us later. But that's probably another point now to do a bit of a save, and we'll stop the video for a sec to let you catch up to that point.